okay. I mean, we can just start now. It doesn't matter.
Okay.
Nice studio, dude.
Thanks.
This has been a while.
Yeah. Just a little
So,
bit.
um, did you fall?
No.
That was pretty great. It looked like you became a midget. No, that's not the right term. Small person. Um, wow, that was very odd, actually.
Hmm.
So I think we should start out by explaining that we've had a bit of a revamp and also why we've been gone because of all sorts of trips and stuff that everybody's been making.
Hmm.
Um, and there's yet more to come. Although the next one that's going to happen in a few weeks is going to be where I'm back in Chicago. So you and I will actually sit down. I hope sit down and try to do one of these together live for the first time. Live.
Yeah.
So our
Never
this is
have we
what
done it before live. Yeah.
yeah. So our so we have a kind of a new premise. We're going to keep doing what we've done before, but it's not going to be quite as formal. It's going to be more reactionary, and it's going to be much more about stuff that just comes to our brains, which is kind of funny given what we just went through in terms of the limitations of our brains. But the anyway, so we're not going to be doing news, although we'll probably reference news. And we're not going to do things like favorite picks and stuff again, although we probably will as throughout the course of our normal lively and exciting discussion. So, but really, basically, it's just going to be what's been happening and what we've experienced, in terms of studio stuff, and it's still very much to do with studio shrinkage, although many other things as well. And to that, I'm going to start out by telling you what I've been doing. So, I've done two major things. Have you done anything except sleep and party? Is that all you've done?
Today, this weekend?
No, last
No.
few weeks.
Yeah. No. We've done a few different things. We went down a rabbit hole with the effects for Final Cut Pro.
Oh
I
my
went on
God,
a
I
shopping
forgot
spree.
about that. I
Yeah.
completely
And
forgot
then
about that. I'm
and
gonna,
then I
I'm
did that again with Isotope. So I've installed about a million different things on the laptop.
okay.
But
All
yeah,
right. So
so I've been
let's
busy.
let's start there because this is unbelievable. Actually, let me let me just. I'm just saying. Let me just. Okay. Can you see this? Wonderful.
Yeah.
So I'm
Hmm.
going to show you. This is truly remarkable. These are all apps. This is my folder that things I put away so that I can keep them and install them from wherever I am. Pixel film here. That everything here is an install from Pixel Film. All
This
of
is not a
these.
commercial, not a sponsor, not a
This is not
sponsor.
a sponsor, but they should be because of all the crap I have from them. So, look at this. So I've been in the process of building a laptop, rebuilding a laptop, and also that's another part of this whole subject. There's a tie-in for everything I'm talking about here, and part of doing that was to install not only all the plugins for all the apps and for video and audio recording, but also to not overwhelm the hard drive and blah blah blah. Oh my God, this is such a long. We could spend 10 hours talking about this, but it was also to do plugins, and these are ridiculous because it takes every single one of these. Why don't they have an app that says, "Okay, install all, everything you own"?
Mm,
What is with
I,
this?
well, because we were buying stupid little bundles that they're made up bundles, and we kept going and going. And the only reason
No,
I don't have as many as you is because I have the M1, and not everything is compatible with M1 yet, but a lot of it is. But if I
yeah,
imagine if everything was compatible, I would have downloaded just as many as you.
yeah. Well, but I mean, that's not an excuse for them, though. I mean, they should. I mean, this is ridiculous that they don't have
Sure.
some kind of. I mean, everyone else does native instrument. Of course, it's not. No, even the MFX has that, right? It's got a controller. It sits
Yeah,
in your
its own little
toolbar.
app. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, everybody that I can think of, I mean, listen, their plugins are great and they're really reasonable, and they have sales like every hour and a half or something
Hmm.
like that, which is
Yeah.
unfortunately what causes you to go nuts because they're so cheap. But because of the way they're basically packaged individually for every flaming, you know, install, and
Mhm.
it's ridiculous. It's actually
It took
ridiculous.
all night. It took all night to install just a fraction of what you had. I can't imagine how long it took
Oh,
you.
it took me 2 days.
Yeah.
It took me 2 days, and then I realized that some of the new ones weren't on the big machine, so I
You
had
had
to
to
do
do
it
it all
again.
over again. Oh boy.
And here, this leads
That
me
was
to my
fun.
main discussion. So I'm in a, very much in terms of our theme of shrinkage. I'm trying to not have 83 PCs around. I'm trying to get it down to a smaller group of PCs. So I've got I have two very old 2013 Mac Pros, the trash can kind. And one of them's a big one of them's a small one, and that's going to lead you to a whole other thing, and I'll tell you about that in a minute. But anyway, and also I've got a 2016 MacBook Pro, all Intel. And of course, I want to someday to do M1, but I can't because, in fact, I couldn't even go to the newest OS because, as usual, audio plugins. We've talked about this many times on the show. Audio plugins are so far behind that um, I they're never caught up. They're beginning to catch up. I'm sure in a year they'll be fine. But I decided to leave this machine alone and not even ever replace it until because it's stupid. If I can't run everything, then I can't have it because
Yeah.
otherwise I have to have two machines. So that's not the point of doing this, right?
Sure. Sure.
So so it also spills off into my MacBook area too. So I had a MacBook Pro 15, a MacBook Pro 13, and a MacBook. My first idea, I really wanted an iPad Pro. The My hope is, and it's getting closer, is that I can use the Mac as an iPad Pro for 70-80% of what I would do on a MacBook of any type from a perspective of everyday apps. So
Mail, web browsing, stuff like that.
finances,
Yeah.
spreadsheets, the basic stuff. And
Hmm.
it's never really been the case that it works. I'm going to be honest. I've tried it. There will, in my opinion, until the day that everything becomes either one OS or that both OSs support everything the way they're supposed to, it's just not going to happen, in my opinion. They're very different machines. I like them both. I think there's a reason for both of them, just like I do for PCs and everything else. But I honestly don't think they really do the job. But here's the thing: with the M1 chip, this thing it's fast, and with a decent keyboard and everything else, um, I decided to get rid of all of my iPads. So I sold all my iPads, and I took a jump to pay for the new iPad Pro, which I have right here.
Oh, new toy alert. New toy.
It's very nice. It doesn't. There's no button, so you have to. Okay, there. Well, let me get rid of you because there. So there it is. It's really unbelievably fast. I mean, it scrolls. I mean, it's ridiculous.
Hmm.
There's no hesitation on anything. Um, I I got. I've been a fan of the keyboard, the Bridge keyboards in the past. BRYDGE, and they're very nice. Apple has a keyboard of its own. It's the Magic keyboard, and it's Magic because it costs a stupid amount of money.
Sure.
That said, I played with it, and I liked it better than the Bridge. Now, there's a reason. There's not a new Bridge for this iPad. There is a Bridge for the last year and this year iPad, but not specifically for this, whereas there is for the 12.1. And this is an 11, and I decided to go with an 11 because it's not that much difference really, and it's the same size as the old ones, except it's diagonally it's a bigger screen because there's no bezel really at all. So, but they don't have a keyboard that works. So I got the 2020 version of the Bridge keyboard, and I opened it up, and it has these clamps that hold on to the bottom of this thing, and it's nice, but you take it off, and it's metal. You have to put. So I instead, hang on, I wasn't planning on doing a show and tell, but hang on a second. There's nowhere to place anything. I've got too much crap. What? Hang on. So here's what I ended up going with. The reason I like this, there's two reasons. First of all, it connects through these connection points. It's magnetic. Did you see that? You didn't.
No, I didn't, because
my finger's in the way, you dumb. Okay, so sorry. So anyway, it just connects. Here's the. I don't know if you can see the pins, but they're right here. So when you connect it, you just basically slap it in and it stays, which is actually pretty cool. And then that's it. The other reason I like it is because there's a second port. So you can.
Is that a USB-C or Thunderbolt?
USB-C 4. Yeah, Thunderbolt 4.
Yeah.
So, which is cool. That's another reason. Yeah. Because I just stuck in the bottom of the iPad. I stuck in a drive, came up.
Wow. So you're getting closer to the desktop
experience. Closer.
Not there yet, but I'm just guessing. I haven't played with it. And of course
the pencil.
You got the...
And it charges. Everything charges off one thing. So I can leave it plugged in like a laptop. And then when I pop the cable off or just pull the iPad off, nothing is connected physically. It's all just magnets.
Nice.
That was kind of cool. The last part I had that was really stopping me from doing this was my banking software. If you're a Mac user, banking software just plain sucks. I'm going to be blunt. Sucks. So, I don't know why. Maybe it's because this is a business world, whatever the reason is. So, if you're going to do banking software, you're 10 times better off on a Mac, on a PC than you are on a Mac. But I want to be able to, along with my portability, I want to be able to use this. I want to be able to use my phone. I want to be able to have access to everything. So I use a tool called Banktivity, which is pretty common for Mac users. And there's a reason I won't talk about Quick, and I refuse to use them ever again. So unless they sponsor me, and then I'll be glad to use it because I think it's the best software I ever heard. But anyway, it's unlikely a banking software is ever going to talk to us, by the way. But Banktivity went to a new version, and of course it's paid. It's yearly paid, which it's not expensive, but it kind of, I don't know. Then I realized that I found that the old version actually still syncs if you just log in. And you're logging into locally, which means Banktivity on this now talks to the Banktivity on my Mac, which means that my phone, I got my phone working, everything's synced. With the old version, I didn't even have to buy anything. So, until the day they change that, which I'm sure they will just to piss me off. But for right now spreadsheets and banks and syncing all my basic everyday files is everywhere. Nice. That's about 80. That hits the 80% mark for me. Am I going to do video? You can do video on this stuff. This is a 1 terabyte, by the way.
Okay. Wow.
There's a reason. They have a 2 terabyte, a 1 terabyte, 512, and something else, 256 or something. This is why you have to get the 1 terabyte, because it doubles the RAM. So by doubling the RAM, it's now you're killing. This is basically the chip that's in your laptop.
Yeah.
It's exactly the same chip, which is pretty amazing. Yeah, by the way, and I have a question about this because you're a Mac M1 user, does it ever get warm at all?
No.
Okay,
I have not had a fan. The fan, I do have a fan in it. The MacBook Pro has a fan, and I've never heard the fan kicking once.
But does it? Yeah, I mean, I don't mean like warm, like hot, like the old MacBooks do. I'm talking about like, is it at least slightly warmed at a touch?
No.
Because this does.
Oh, okay.
But I'm not talking about in any way uncomfortable. It's not like, MacBooks or but even the old iPad Air. If you leave it on for a while, it will get warm in the back, just a little bit. Mm-hmm. But it's in no way uncomfortable, in no way a problem. It's just more that I just was more asking if you had any problems with it.
No.
So for me, what this allows me to do, guess what, is get rid of all my MacBooks. So I already got rid of all the Airs, or I'm sorry, all the iPads, and now my next goal is MacBook Pro. One single big MacBook Pro, which I have 3 laptops to sell for.
Mm-hmm.
So there's logic here. Of course, I just rebuilt, as you heard me, I just rebuilt the MacBook Pro. And there is a new MacBook 16 coming, we think, with the announcement in June. M1. The fact that I was able to do on a laptop everything M1, not M1, but everything Big Sur, leads me to believe that within 6 months, that new laptop will also be everything will work with it. So I'm going to wait a little while, but that's why I built it the way I did, earlier. But someday we're going to go with a MacBook Pro. So all 3 of those MacBook Pros will eventually sell. And that's how I'll pay for that. Oh, my Lord. That was my first story. Now I'm going to tell you my second story, which kind of relates in a very strange way. Here's my second story. I was in process of building my MacBook Pro, in the process of doing, it's not so much when you're doing this, but when you're doing a MacBook Pro, I have access, let me go back to this thing I can show you. These are all of my apps, right? And they're physically located, in other words, all my installs, okay? So if I go back one, you can see these are all my applications. I haven't broken up by audio, whatever. So, that resides on 2 drives. One's a backup, one's a regular one. You can see I have a lot to put away, but I haven't done that. And it includes some software that's so old, I'll never do it again. But from time to time, when you're building something, it has massive amounts of, without having to stick a DVD in somewhere. It's really a great way to, I think little by little it's going to go away, because everything is mostly installed by the web nowadays. But for right now, I still need it. But I decided to mount it locally on my main Mac. The problem is that there's no way to get access to it any other way. So I decided, I went off on another tangent and decided to build a server.
Mm.
Okay, so I'm doing that using a PC, the PC that you know about, and I had the second SSD in there, empty, sitting there waiting. Oh, was that fun? First of all, it took me 3 days to figure out which version of Linux to use, or if I should even use Linux. Should I use, like, Windows? Well, it's not the greatest file server, nor is really, well, and it's just not.
Probably
it's not.
Yeah.
Not that good. Okay.
Especially if you're using Macs, mostly Macs. I would think that'd be.
Well, no, Macs. Apple changed. This is something I learned. Apple changed to SMB. I don't know if you know what that's. Samba. Samba is that's Windows networking, and so.
Oh, I didn't know that.
They recently. I don't know how recently, but recently they used to use their own protocol, which was called Mac file sharing or something like that. I don't remember. It's been a while, but they went to Samba, so they support Samba, so you could actually network to a Windows machine or any machine. In fact, Linux has Samba built in. You can actually use. So I thought, okay, that's a great idea. I'm going to go back to Linux and do this. Building this was quite a joy. Quite a joy.
I sense some sarcasm in that.
Yeah,
just a little bit.
So this is what I'm gonna cut to the chase. I got it working, but it was massive trickery, because there's a boot sector, and the last thing you want to do is wipe out the boot sector of your Windows machine. You'll kill yourself, because all Windows is dead. So the secret, and I'm going to tell anyone who wants to do this, the secret of success: 1, use a separate drive. Please, please, please use a separate drive. You can put them on the same drive, but now you're messing with that boot sector, and I didn't want to do it. And I had a second drive, so it's not a big deal for me, but maybe some other might have a problem. I don't know, but please, if you can do it, use a separate drive. Second of all, when you're installing Linux, make sure that it has to have its own boot selection tool. And it, by default, puts it in your boot system of, guess what? Your first drive. Bye-bye, Windows.
No, no.
So, I knew this because I'd been burned before. So, I'm going to save a bunch of people some hassle. You can choose, and it depends on the installation you use. It depends on the Linux installation you use. You can choose where you put the boot sector in. And by the way, you do need the boot sector because you can't just boot Linux without it. So you do install it, but you install it to the same drive that you installed Linux on. So I took that whole 1 terabyte SSD, installed all of Linux there, and installed the boot sector there. Here's the problem. Now, how do you get to it? Well, you can use your BIOS on your PC to do that, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's a pain. I don't know about you, but no matter how many times I push delete, the BIOS jumps right by me. I cannot stop it's so fast. I can't.
I had that problem when I built my last PC. It was so fast.
So
with
fast.
the SSDs, you have to turn off Quick Boot in the BIOS.
It is off.
Because, oh, it is.
It is off.
Yeah, it was.
No, you're
too
right.
Fast.
It's still too fast.
Wow.
Then
that was so weird. I've never had that problem in my life.
Oh, it's ridiculous.
The computer just boots so quickly. I mean, it's a nice problem to have.
It is, but
until you need to get into the BIOS.
Well, the BIOS should actually give you more time. You should say select 5 seconds for the BIOS boot or something. So anyway, all it says is fast or short on my BIOS. Now I'm sure there's newer BIOSes. Anyway, I have a remote USB keyboard, so there's a delay booting it. Well, meaning it's a Logitech wireless, so it's remotely, it's not connected physically. So I pulled out, I had to pull out a physical hard to plug it in.
Wired keyboard, mouse.
And to install it, I had to use a USB thumb drive. And the USB thumb drive, but first of all, I for some reason have none. I found one. None. Joe had one. It was rusty.
What? Rust?
It was rusty. I couldn't even use it. It was like, I don't know, 2 gigabytes or something. I don't know. I found a 64 gig thumb drive at the bottom of a drawer, and I made that be my install program. But oh my cripes, that was fun. Okay, I'm not done yet. So I got it installed. I did the right thing, but the switching is ridiculous. So I got this program. It's free, or there's a paid version, but I don't know why I paid for it, but I felt guilty because I think they did a great job. And it's scary because it always only talks about Windows 7, but it absolutely supports Windows 10. Absolutely, okay? It's basically a boot manager. And not only can you rebuild things if you screw up, and you can build your own thumb drive to reboot into if you have a problem. Of course, now you're left with the stupid delete thing. But anyway, once you get into it, you can rebuild your boot sector, which is gigantic. But in addition to that, what it does is it sits and runs in window, fast SMB. And it boots it boots in Windows but before all of like multi-user Windows boots up, it comes up and gives you a menu choice, and you can add as many as you want. And what it does is reloads your BIOS, reboots the machine, reloads your BIOS, and forces it to go to the drive that you want it to. But as soon as you shut it down, it goes back into Windows, and then make a choice again. So it replaces all this, and all your hassles are over, and it's great. Is it BCD, BMD? I don't remember this. Anyway, it's really great. It works fine, and all my problems were done, except for one thing. So now I have Linux, and I'm trying to get it to share files. And plus, think about this. It has its own file system, right? Linux file systems. So if I was to move these drives over, you could read them, but I'm not sure it could share them. Maybe it could. I don't know.
Right.
Or I'd have to reformat them and copy all the files over and build it into this machine. And I'm going like, geez, okay, well, should I get SMB running? It's running, but I can't. So far, I have not been able to get anything to share anywhere across the network. And I don't know why. I'm sure I am guaranteeing you it's Linux operator error for sure. And I'm sure I could, if I dig in long enough, I'll find it. But I completed this whole thing I just described to you And I'm sitting there on the couch, and I'm thinking to myself, why am I not using my other Mac to do all this? My old
Mm.
MacBook, my Mac trash can, which I'm now not using for anything anymore. Why am I not using this as a file server?
That's a good question. I don't know. I thought
What am I
I didn't even
doing?
think to ask myself that, or ask you that question myself. Why not? Why
Yeah, well,
aren't you using it?
I wanted to make sure that I spent as much time as humanly possible building as many things, screwing things up as much as possible before I came to the logical conclusion of just use the stupid Mac, you idiot. All the drives would be compatible, all of them, because they're all formatted with Mac OS.
Mm-hmm.
They're all AF, formatted drives.
I guess that would have been. I thought there was a valid reason why you skipped that and went to the more difficult route, and maybe it was just to show our listeners how
Stupid I am?
many options there are out there, and you wanted to try each one of them so that our listeners didn't have to.
Wow.
So now
Thank
you
you.
can narrow it down. You narrowed it down,
Thank you.
not logically, but more systematically. You narrowed it down.
Yeah, now there's one thing. Jesus, you're being nice for everybody, but
Yes.
there's one thing I have to say about Mac. Mac used to be a great server because you could just install the server program. The server program is crap now. They got rid of everything.
Okay.
Many of the things
Yeah, they
they've
had a
done.
separate
Yeah.
OS for the
OS server.
servers.
Well, it's still there. It's still
It
there,
is okay. I
but
didn't
it's
know.
not the same.
Okay.
They've cut out. They used to have. Actually, I don't know if this is true or not, but I read somewhere a while ago that if you have the old version of the server software, that it might work with newer software, newer versions of OS. I'd have to test that. Maybe somebody in the listener would know that. I don't know, but because it'd be kind of cool because it has web serving, it has file serving, it has mail server. It's got all sorts of crazy stuff. Remember that Mac OS is built on Unix, not Linux, but Unix. So it's got all that stuff in there. You can use it all if you're a gearhead. My guess is that 90% of the people that we would ever talk to about any of this stuff is much more interested in making music or doing video editing or doing those kinds of things than they are learning Unix or Linux. So I'm trying to get them. The Mac OS server was terrific. Even that had a little bit of confusion, but compared to other people, it was really great. And you can do add-ons. Here's another path to go down. Is if you have a Windows machine, there are add-ons for Windows that will give you serving capabilities. You could also buy Windows Server, but that's stupid expensive, and I don't know why anyone would ever want to do it. So if you have an old PC or Mac laying around, consider that. The other option is to go down the Linux path and hang yourself in a week. So that's the end of of my rant. Oh man. Okay. So these are the kinds of things we're going to talk about in the future. Is there any news of anything that you know about that would be important to have? Music news, video news.
Some stuff caught my ear. Like they're a comic book company called Z2 is releasing a graphic novel. The story of Freddie Mercury. But in
really?
a comic book format. Yeah, not a comic book. It's more of a graphic novel, but
Yeah.
it's got some really cool artwork, hand-drawn watercolor stuff, and it's going to tell, Freddie Mercury's story of... It's called Freddie Mercury, A Life in His Own Words. Looks pretty cool. My son was a real big fan of Queen, so might check that out. 136-page soft cover for $20 and a hardcover for $30. Thought it was
Cool.
pretty cool.
Yeah. What else? I used my. I had a shoot this week. And it looks. The footage came out really nice. I also had another shoot. I had 2 shoots this week. And I used the drone. And while as we talked about earlier, I'm a little pissed off that they replaced my drone already. I have to say that for what I do with stuff, I'm not sure it made any difference. Would have made any difference at all. I mean, I know it's a
Yeah.
better camera, but I'm not sure it makes any difference.
Yeah, how much? I was actually in Fox Lake this weekend, and I sent the drone up for the first time out there because we only went once last summer, and I don't think I had the new drone yet. But I was doing. They were playing bean bags or cornhole, whatever you call it, in the parking lot in front of the condo or the townhouses,
Yeah, we were doing that
and
yesterday at the bar.
I did a little. Yeah, it's fun.
Yeah.
It's a summery type of game. I'm not a huge fan, but it's still fun to get involved. But
Yep.
as they were playing, I did a couple like vortex shots going in the circle. I do it not the presets because on mine the presets only shoot 1080, so I just did it in 4K and I did it myself, just maneuvering around. I had to be careful because there's a tree and I almost landed in the tree. Luckily, I have cat-like reflexes and
Oh, okay.
I pulled it back. But no, anyway, I was doing one of the shots and the sun's like it was I don't know 7 p.m. 6:30. Yeah, about 6 p.m. So the sun was kind of going down,
Yeah.
but I caught a flare, a lens flare off the sun
Oh,
that
you
looked
were
like
using an ND?
no, but it looked beautiful, artistic. It looked like I
Oh.
added it in post, just a
Oh.
little tiny flare
Yeah.
with a little purple circle, and it just the
Yeah.
way it swooped in. I got to show you the footage.
Yeah.
I was so impressed. It was just
Yeah.
like, man, I was glad I upgraded because it was easy to fly.
Yeah.
Battery
Yeah.
life is 30 minutes now instead of 15 minutes, and
Yeah.
the footage is just super crisp. So I'm very
Yeah.
happy.
Yeah. I'm not gonna think about it anymore. I'm pretty, it
Sorry.
looks good. I'm done. Okay. So that's it. We're gonna do these things when there's enough information that we come across that's of interest. Whenever that happens, I know we're going to be doing one in a couple of weeks because we're going to be doing it from the lovely town of Racine, Wisconsin.
Racine.
Wisconsin, in a couple of weeks. So coming live. Of course, that's assuming I can get all this gear working again, a portable gear system. I was really smart when I laid the gear out to the travel setup.
Mm-hmm.
I took a video of how it went together with the cables and how I packed it. It was like quite
That's smart.
brilliant. Yeah, it's not unusual for me to be this smart about something. But anyway, and so I should be able to do this. So we're going to do this whenever we can. And so keep listening. And I think that's it for right now, Mr. Will. I will see you in a couple weeks.
Okay.
Okay?
I'm looking forward to it.
Yep.
Till then.
Bye-bye.
Bye.